Welcome to the Whole Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you become a fat burner, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, it's Debbie Potts, and I am going to do a special episode today to answer some questions that I get from you, the listener, on the Low Carb Athlete Facebook page or Instagram, or emailing me directly to my website, debbiepotts.net. So a lot of the questions I'm sharing today are stuff that I hear about from a lot of athletes. And as I gather my notes from my book, not my book, it's the book by Dr. Stacy Sims called Roar, and the concept that women are not small men. And as I talk about this information with Dina and Aaron Carson in a week or so, we're doing a roundtable conversation on these topics. Women are different than men. We have hormones that vary at different times of the month, premenstrual cycle, PMS, and we've got hormones during our cycle that are lower and then higher, and then we have perimenopausal and post-menopause, or menopause rather. So as we ask these questions about what to eat as a low-carb athlete and how to be fat adapted, we always want to say it depends. N equals 1. And as an FDN practitioner, we use the bio-individuality needs of each person. So do we use that same concept in nutritional therapy and Paul Chek's program I've done, the Chek Institute, holistic lifestyle coach. And Ben Greenfield, we were talking a lot before about the ancestral background and having more of a ancestry genetic profile looked at, as well as, looking at your body's needs and your food sensitivity lab. So I'm going to start with answering some questions, and just know all the answers are going to be, it depends. I will talk about it from my experience as an endurance athlete, pre being broken and post being broken in 2013, as I started doing low carb training. Well, I started doing marathons and Ironmans first Ironman was 2001, and then I did marathons before that and short distance triathlon starting in 1995. I sound vintage. So I started doing metabolic efficiency testing on myself and clients when I worked at a health club in Bellevue, Washington back in 2005. Then I kept doing testing on individuals and athletes of all levels until the New Leaf company got bought out by Lifetime Fitness, so we could no longer do lab testing. So I've done all this this metabolic efficiency training. I've done heart rate training. I did heart zone training with Sally Edwards when we first came out with it back in, that was a long time ago. Maybe I started at the Bellevue Club in 1995, so maybe 2000 we were doing heart zone training camps and workshops with Sally Edwards. And then when I started doing Ironmans in 2001, I was training already with heart rate monitor training using Maffetone's knowledge from his book, and then started working with Mark Allen on his elite triathlon team in 2004. And then when I did the USA Triathlon training camp, that was 2008 or 2009, Bob Seibehorst spoke, and I completely agreed with what he was saying. We don't need to eat all this sugar as endurance athletes. We should be burning fat as fuel. We want to improve our metabolic efficiency, and we don't need to take gels every hour, and we don't need to load up on carbs. And that was, a big turning point for me, because I was struggling with the concept that we were supposed to eat so many carbs before you go work out, and then every hour, and drink all this liquid. And I wrote all about it in my book, Life is Not a Race. So hopefully you can grab that book on Amazon and understand my journey and my background. And then you'll understand why I'm doing what I'm doing now. But Bob Siebelhorn really taught me a lot. I eventually did his metabolic efficiency specialist training program and really love what he does as well. So all this information that I've gained over the years from my own education, my own experience, and just talking to people over the years in the podcast is kind of going to help me answer some of these questions. So the first question, what are my thoughts on intermittent fasting and being a female? As this listener said, they love intermittent fasting and they love doing fasted workouts. They feel good doing it. Well, I have done fasted workouts for a long time, since probably 2009, and now it's 2020. So I've been doing them a long time. And I think before you jump into intermittent fasting, it's what I coach people with now. You need to become fat adapted. It's a lot easier to start fasting if you've kind of made that transition from a high carb eater to a low carb, high fat eating plan. So I would make that transition, and then you should be able to do 12-hour intermittent fast easily before you even, really become fat adapted. But, start with what I keep saying, what you're eating, how you're eating, when you're eating, and why you are eating. I don't have my clients eat 3 hours before bed. So you want to stop eating, and you should be going to bed by 10 for sure, especially if you get up like I do at 4:30, 5 a.m. to work out. Well, I need to stop eating, like 5 o'clock, because I am in bed reading at 7:30. I need to be in bed asleep by 8 o'clock, or else I am tired the next day. So for me, I need to stop eating at 5 or even 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So easy to start working on a 12-hour overnight fast, and then easy to build up to 16 hours if you wake up and work out and then eat something afterwards. Now, I must say that I did a podcast recently on fasting for women with Kelsey Hess. You must listen to, and she's from Keon. She's our content coordinator. She's got all the information from Ben from the years and helped create the content in our Keon Coach program. So she's got all this knowledge and all this information from learning from Ben and researching herself and her own education, of course. But women fasting is a different topic. So fasting itself, I think, yes, I agree on fasting, starting with 12 hours, working to 16 hours. I like doing fasted workouts, but I think it depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from eating the standard high carb, fat-free, low-fat, athletic food program, I hate diet, so diet program, whatever you want to call it, what you're eating now, I would start working on transitioning to eating real food and then working on dropping those carbs and eating more fat and protein. I would do the metabolic typing program too. It's mtdiet.com that we do through our FDN practitioner program to learn more about your individuality. I would do DNA Fit and look at your genetic profile on how you do with lactose, how you do with saturated fats, and just look at your whole genetic profile for nutrition as well. So I like DNA Fit for that. So, but then there's individuality of being a female and having a menstrual cycle. So you may find information in the podcast I'm doing on women and for female athletes how to train. But look at the podcast with Kelsey Hess, and then stay tuned for the one I'm doing with Dina and Aaron Carson on women athletes, female athletes, based on the information we've collected with the book Roar from Dr. Stacy Sims. So it's really interesting what she says. But women, basically, the first half of their cycle can eat more carbs and do more strength training. In the second half of the cycle, less carbs or more fat-burning carbohydrate, because you'll find out, the hormones change. And there's lots of information in the book Roar and on our podcast we're going to be doing. And Kelsey wrote some great blogs on fasting for women, and we'll do a follow-up on that. So fasting, I think, is good. I just think you just need to work on building up a fat adaptation process, because then it becomes easier as you're a fat burner. It's easier not to eat. You're not going to have the highs and lows, because what you'll find out, if you are just start fasting and you're a sugar burner, your body is going to be under more stress, and anything that is a stressor will alert your HPA axis and activate that release of the stress hormone cortisol, and that will help raise the blood sugar, because your body thinks, oh, I'm under emergency, I have a threat, I need to increase my blood sugar so I can respond to that threat of a lion. So you have to think about you as an individual. I think you need to pay attention to your menstrual cycle for women, your stress in your life. If it's a stressful time, fasting more than 16 hours, I think, is too much. And you can feel when your body is going too much through a stressful time. You have a lot of anxiety. I've had clients try fasting that have a lot going on in their life, and it doesn't really work well for them. It just causes additional stress. So you have to almost go day by day, week by week, and look at your overall stressors. And if you're feeling good and happy, you don't have this extra load of stress on your body. Don't, go through a long fast if you're feeling already bad. So so individual, you can't really say. So anyways, I don't know if I'm helping you out there, but I think you just have to listen to yourself, pay attention to those red flags, and just at least build up to 16-hour fast, and that ends up being 8 hours for your time restricted feeding. And I find that pretty easy to do once you are fat adapted, because if you have a high protein and fat meal and vegetables, if you're doing more carbs, if your metabolic typing is a slow oxidizer versus a fat oxidizer, you might need more carbohydrates. So you can learn that in the metabolic typing questionnaire. Is a huge test to take, but you can find out if your body does well with a little more carbs. Some people do. I do not. I will be hungry an hour later, and I'll keep eating if I have carbohydrates. So metabolic typing will tell you, are you fast oxidizer, are you slow oxidizer, are you a mixed? And if you're more of a sympathetic dominant, or you're parasympathetic dominant, or a blend of the two. So it takes that information. You can figure out what foods are best for you, and then you can use a food log to check in. How do I feel when I eat this? Do I feel good? Do I feel full for hours? Do I have energy? Or am I tired? Am I yawning? Do I have a headache? Is my stomach bloated? Am I farting? Am I burping? What's going on? Am I running to the bathroom? So if you pay attention to your body, you'll know when intermittent fasting, low carb, high carb, low protein, high protein, you'll figure out what ratio of those macronutrients work for you as a bio individual. So if it feels good, it's working for you. But obviously, if your workout's crap, it wasn't good for you. Maybe you need a little something. The other thing I will do a podcast again on is having branched chain amino acids. The Keon aminos are really good. And I prefer the drink mix. I just made some myself because I just did a bike ride, finally. It's in February, and I have not been on my bike for a month because the weather here in Seattle has been a little wet. But having 5 grams of branched chain amino acids before you work out and 30 minutes afterwards for women is what Dr. Stacy Sims says. Now, she doesn't recommend any supplements, she told me, because I tagged her on a post, but Keon aminos is 5 grams in 1 scoop of the Keon aminos. So I recommend the Keon aminos myself. And the tablets are a little more chalky, but if you rather not drink your branched chain amino acids, you can have the tablets. You have to have 5 of them. So anyways, if your workout feels good, do a fasted workout. I'm also experimenting with Vespa, and I did some podcasts with Peter Defty from Vespa, but I find that my running is a little more stressful on my body. And I just, as I did a podcast the other week about my running performance, isn't great. And it's really depressing me. And I'm not able to get my speed up because my heart rate goes up and I get tired. So I'm going to experiment adding Vespa. And instead of just being stubborn and being fasted athlete for my long runs. So I'll be sharing that experience with you. But anyways, I think fasted workouts majority of the time works. Longer workouts, you may need a little something. I used to overdose on bulletproof coffee, so I don't really do that as much. Once I start going for longer workouts, I might have something beforehand. Example, today we are in February and we just went for a Sunday long bike ride. We got like 2 hours and 40 minutes in, and I had a little snack beforehand because we weren't riding to about noon. And so I made a little bowl of mixed nuts, macadamia nuts, and some seeds and almonds that I actually found at Costco as a keto marketing campaign. I see it's keto on everything now. Keto or paleo mixed nuts and seeds, and they had little cheese puffs, and I bought some macadamia nuts too, and I just put those in a dish, and I had some of that with my coffee and heavy cream, and that was good. Kind of tied me over. So it's 2:48 while I'm doing this, and I'll make lunch dinner after this. We'll have, I think, steak and some Brussels sprouts that Neil made with bacon, and cook some bacon fat, and we're gonna have that for an early dinner. So that ends up being 1 meal a day. So I find it works. If you work out later in the day, it's easy for me to have 1 meal a day and then maybe a snack or something, or maybe have some dessert, almond butter and some nuts and coconut oil mixed together, some coconut flakes. But I will follow up on the next question here. I'm going off on a tangent again. So the next question, nutritionists say I should really eat something before working out. So I kind of just talked about this, but nutritionists often say I should eat something before working out, even though it's a few spoons of yogurt or nut butter, as they worry about my cortisol levels. Well, as I kind of already said, I think, one, I wouldn't ever do yogurt before I work out. Dairy does not make me feel good, and that, might be something you want to look at, but I would try Vespa if you feel like you need something. I think, as I just finished explaining, if you're doing a longer workout, maybe you need a little something. But I think just having, if you're fat adapted, so I'd have to see where you are starting from. So if you are already doing more low carb, high fat, eating right for metabolic type, eating the right ratio of protein, carbs, and fat for your body's needs. Again, go back to what I just said earlier, is that you should feel good. You should be full for hours. You should have steady energy. You shouldn't have that high and low crash, and your mood should be good. So there's a bunch of things that I give my clients a diet check record to kind of track how they're feeling based on what they eat. So if you're fat adapted, I don't think if you're doing a short workout, you don't really need anything. If your body, though, as I said before, is stressed, then I think doing a fasted workout isn't good. So then I would say have some Vespa beforehand, because it won't spike your blood sugar up and just give you a little something. Have some of those Keon aminos, and I think it should be okay. If you need some nut butter, might be, because those nut butter is better on digestion than having the macadamia and whole nuts that I had, but I had them 2 hours before my workout. And I was bike riding. I can't eat and go running. So I think it depends. I can't eat and swim, and I can't eat and go for a run unless I have like a little Vespa or something like that. So again, regarding cortisol levels, I think it depends on the day. It depends on the time of the month. It depends on your stressors. So just pay attention to your body. You can kind of feel if your body feels under tension, it feels stressed, you feel like you have a little extra anxiety. I would, not do a hard workout. I would do a lower heart rate workout, because if they're worried about spiking your stress hormone, cortisol, you may be doing the workout that's not appropriate for you. So I would perhaps first thing in the morning do your heart rate variability test, see how your body is, if you're recovered and repaired from the previous workout, and see how you feel. I mean, if it's just a short 45-hour workout, I don't think you need to have something if you're keeping in that mafetone heart rate range. So say you're doing a bike ride, 120, 130 heart rate, you should be okay. If you feel stressed out and they're worried about the cortisol levels, you shouldn't go do a HIIT training workout or, speed workout when you're already stressed. So you have to go by your training program and sometimes reschedule the workouts based on your mood, based on your stress level, based on your menstrual cycle for women, and just kind of pay attention to your body. And I don't think a lot of people do that. All right, next question. Nutritionists recommend having 115 to 150 carbs per day, counting macros, with being an endurance athlete. Well, as I said, there's not one size fits all approach to what you should eat. You have to experiment. Maybe have a starting point. Some people can do 50 grams. Some people can do 150 grams. It's about burning fat. So I would get your Keto Mojo out, test your blood sugar, test your ketones if you are trying to get more ketosis, and see where you are. See how many carbs you need to have a good workout. Check your heart rate and your workouts. You can tell if they're slower. You can tell if they're crappy ones and garbage workouts. You'll get that feedback from your body if you are a little sluggish. Maybe you need a little something. But if you're training in that mafetone heart rate training, that max aerobic range, 180 minus your age, plus or minus 5 beats, and so say you're 50 years old, that's 130 heart rate to 120 heart rate. So say you're staying not going above 130 heart rate and you're fat adapted, you should be burning lots of fat there. And as you get more metabolically efficient, maybe if you did a treadmill test to see where this goes, you can still stay a little higher heart rate than 130 and still burn a high percentage of fat. So you have to get the metabolic efficiency real test to see where your metabolic crossover point is. How high a percentage of fat you can burn until your carbohydrates take over as your main fuel source. So it depends on the intensity of your workout. So having 115 to 150 carbs per day, that could be the right amount for an individual. Now, this was another question I saw somewhere for me, but I do not count macronutrients. I go by how I feel. So I dieted a lot. I think high school was when I started dieting. Counting calories is deadly to me. I do not count calories, and I don't like clients counting their macros, counting their calories, logging stuff too much if you dieted a lot. It's not good for us people that dieted a lot, because you end up thinking of food too much and it gets too obsessive and not become natural. I'd rather just do more intuitive nutrition, eat when I'm hungry, stop when I'm full. But sometimes it's harder for people. So again, it depends on you and your relationship with food. But if you were an over dieter, you might find that you need to just go by how you feel and maybe write down your food, but maybe do that how you feel food log with it. So anyways, that was some thoughts of that. So how many carbs you should have per day varies. I would make sure your blood sugar stays between like 80 and 90. So testing your fasted blood sugar in the morning, maybe before your lunch, afternoon, and before dinner, and do it 4 times a day for a few weeks. Just get an idea what you're eating and your training schedule, what you need. Again, for women, it's going to change in your high hormone phase, and your low hormone phase is the first 2 weeks of your cycle. So your nutrition needs and your carb sensitivity insulin sensitivity will vary based on your cycle. So we'll go into that with Dina and Aaron on a future episode. Okay, so I see so many successful stories from athletes, male and female, who eat less carbs on Facebook pages. Now, if you've listened to my recent podcast episodes that I've been doing alone, I find that Facebook, social media, is motivating but also discouraging, because I was reading this article on metabolic typing. We are all different snowflakes. Everyone's different. My stressors are different than your stressors. My gut biome is different than yours. My genetic, my ancestry background. There's no one that's exactly the same as you. So to compare yourself, especially to a male when you're a female, vice versa, doesn't work. And to hear these different Facebook group pages, especially athletes, well, the Keto for Beginners, I read a lot of their stuff. None of them are really athletes. But if you're comparing people with results that are athletes doing low carb, well, it's so individual. And my background, I think I'm more metabolically damaged and I had more stress. So I became insulin resistant doing low carb because of my chronic stress. So as I'm doing health coaching now as my main job, I have clients do 5 main functional lab tests, and then we do the metabolic typing test. Part of the 5 labs is the hormone panel, metabolic assessment, a leaky gut test, a stool test to find parasite, fungal, bacteria infections, and MRT food sensitivity lab. And then I'd like some people to get a full thyroid panel and some people to get the organic acid test to really look at the cells. Now, we go through our medical director to read those. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing. I'm just looking at everything together and clinically correlating all your data with your symptoms and complaints and goals and genetics with the lab results. And then we create a plan based on all that data that we collect. So it's really different for each person. So yes, there's a lot of successful stories on there, but no one's going to put their crappy ones out there, right? No one puts when they have a crappy swim workout, or, I'm trying to share more that my running sucks. And I used to do fast running. I never ran over like a 9 to 10 minute plus minute mile. I've never even heard of myself doing that. And then suddenly that's like what I'm doing. And it is frustrating. So, a lot of people don't share that. They just share the positive. So, and you don't know how their blood sugar is as well. I always think everyone, your main goal, whatever you eat, paleo, carnivore, keto, vegan, vegetarian, is to eat real food that balances your blood sugar out. If you're eating food that's high, causing your blood sugar to go high, that means you're releasing the hormone insulin to lower your blood sugar, and then it gets too low, and then you have low blood sugar, then you get on that blood sugar roller coaster. So we really need to look at bio-individuality and how food reacts to you, and also all the other stressors that are external and hidden internal stresses really make impact. And that's why I'm doing my health detective coaching program for 3 months with people, because it takes a while to figure out all this. All right. Did you have any medical concerns that came directly from low carb intermittent fasting? No, not really. I mean, yes and no. I obviously am doing what I'm doing, as I said before, because I wrote all my book, Life is Not a Race. I wrote a manual called The Holistic Method Manual to go over all the 8 elements I think we really need to pay attention to be healthy, because I've been broken since 2013, and now it's 2020, and I just canceled out of doing Ironman Canada and Hanu 70.3 because I just can't get my running endurance. It's just not working. And this is why I'm talking about all this stuff with you. Chronic stress impacts the whole you from the inside out. So that's why I became an FDN practitioner, because you don't know what's going on if you're having health issues unless you do the lab testing from someone as myself, an FDN practitioner, because the doctors, as I shared in my book, naturopath, functional medicine people, no one was doing all the labs that we do in FDN. And people treat the symptoms, treat the results, and they don't figure out the why. Why are these off? Why are my hormones so low? Why do I have this infection in my gut. So there's all this stuff that we need to look at. And the medical concerns I had, well, yeah, was it from low carb, intermittent fasting? Who knows? You can't figure out why things happen. I was low carb for years, and I said doing fasted workouts, I probably ate too little calories, and that caused more of a stress in my body. So you have to figure out what your body feels like that day. If going really low carb is causing you to put your body in emergency mode, then it's too low of carbs. And so you have to track, measure your ketones, measure your blood sugar, measure your heart rate variability, listen to your body. There's red flags, like I shared all through my book, Life is on a Race, that I had that I wish I knew now what I knew then, because I didn't realize those were red flags. So if you want to avoid having internal breakdown and burnout, as I have, that I still can't race the way I want to at a competitive level, just listen to me, get the coaching I'm doing. I'm not going to just go do a race and suffer. And I've been there, done it. I've raced for a long time, so I'm not going to sign up for something just for the sake of crossing the finish line. I want to do something and feel good and be strong and finish top of my age group, or, feel good. I'm not going to just do it just to kill my body more. All right. Next question. Do you macro count, carb count? I already answered that. No, I hate doing that. Maybe it's good for me, but psychologically I have issues with it. So that's a personal problem, but I think it's good for people starting out to use some type of app as MyFitnessPal to track their macros, not calories, but how many carbs and protein and fat. And you're going to have to tweak that. Use the metabolic typing diet. I give people the, as I said, the diet check record sheet to see how they feel. So I don't like to track, count numbers or anything. I just go by how I feel. I don't weigh myself either enough, because that gets depressing. I feel like I gain weight if I weigh myself. Again, I dieted too much growing up and had obviously problems from that, but it's so individual again. If it works for you, I have people that weigh themselves every day. To me, that'd make me psycho. So once a week, weighing yourself, measuring around your waist, around your hips, stand with your feet together, measure around the widest portion of your hips. That would be good for you. But figuring out how to measure your macros might be something just to do in the beginning. And then periodically, you can, if you're measuring your macros, it's the same thing as we do lab testing. You don't know if you're eating the right amount for your type unless you do blood sugar testing. So if you're counting the macros, what does that matter if you're not testing your ketones and glucose? So if you're going to count macros, it should go hand in hand with testing your blood sugar and ketones. So we're doing a podcast with Keto Mojo, be out in another couple weeks, but listen into that. All right. I feel that if I'm less hungry, I feel better and love working out. So I think they're saying that they feel more energy when they're working out and they feel good. I feel if I'm less hungry. I think what they're saying is that when they exercise fasted, they feel better and they enjoy it. I do too. I mean, that's another individual thing. If you're need more carbs, you might not feel good, but I feel better when I don't eat. I am trying, as I said, Vespa before my runs to see if that makes my performance better, because I'm more concerned about athletic performance, recovery, and repair. And then, of course, longevity. And that's something you can do and dive into more when you're doing the Vespa and measuring your blood sugar and just kind of seeing how your run is. I can tell with my Garmin if my pace and heart rate was better. So watching your heart rate, keeping that methadone training, and then, maybe do some speed work at the finish. But I think working on your aerobic engine and getting your body to being this fat burning machine is great. Doing fasted workouts that are not too long that cause your body to think it's in stress mode. So it's so individual. Again, I think it fluctuates for women as I'm learning throughout the month, because I think that will change a lot for women based on high hormone to low hormone of their cycle, which is interesting. You kind of notice that naturally how you change, your energy level changes. And I think, we can get a lot of information from our body if we just stop, pause, and pay attention to it. So next question we'll finish up with, of course, N=1 is what I say to all these answers. And you have to remember not to compare yourself to other people. We're individual thumbprints, we're individual snowflakes, and you got to just experiment. That's what biohacking is all about, right? So you just have to play with your own nutrition, eating real food, eating organic, non-GMO. I would have you do the labs that I do with my clients, even if you just want to do my 30-day program that we just do the labs, and I don't do all the 3-month health coaching part of it with you. But if you just want the labs and see where you are, I call it, being fit and healthy on the outside, but are you really unhealthy on the inside and creating more damage than good? Looking at your oxidative stress, looking at your fat, bile, liver health, and gallbladder function, and then looking at your liver congestion, detoxification is huge, as well as oxidative stress and mitochondrial damage that we're putting on our body. So doing the labs, I think, is really important for people to do if they know they're being healthy or you're creating more damage with your training, your lifestyle habits. So the question I just answered before I said the question, I realized is the last one. How do you know if you are doing something that could be potentially unhealthy? So test, don't guess. Listen to your body, respect and honor those red flags and signals, document, track everything, figure it out with biohacking. I would, that's why I'm doing health coaching. It's being a health detective, collecting data, clues, investigating the whole you. That's why 5-6 years ago, I wrote my book, Life is Not a Race. That's why I created the holistic method to train the whole athlete from the inside out. With the 8 elements of the holistic method, we really need to look at all of them. You can't just be fit by doing exercise alone or even just nutrition. So the 8 elements of the holistic method, and there's a chapter in each of them in my book on Amazon. If you look up Debbie Potts, it's easier to find my book and manual. But we need to work on all these together. So the first one is nutrition. I always start my clients working on their food, when, how, why, what they're eating. And then we work on exercise. How much is too much? That Goldilocks effect. When to add speed work, when to do maffetone training, when to do recovery workout, when to do mobility, strength, core work, yoga, Pilates, all that stuff. So exercise, number 2. Number 3 is sleep. Are you getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep? Are you waking up energized? Or do you have trouble going to sleep at night? Are you waking up in the middle of the night? That sleep is huge. What time are you going to bed? What are you doing before bed? Are you a bunch of bright lights around you? Are you on your computer? So I work on all those lifestyle habits with clients because a lot of the sleep issues are huge. And then we work on stressors. External, of course, you have to dive in deep to kind of get to people's why. And then the hidden internal stressors we do with the lab testing. And then I have movement mobility, because even if you train every day, if you're sitting on your rear end covered over a desk or in a car, you need mobility work, hip movement, opening up your chest, reverse the movements that we do, biking, swimming, running, and sitting at a desk. And then, of course, digestion and gut health. How's your digestion? Do you need protein, HCl, betaine? Do you need some digestive enzymes, some support for your bile, probiotics, prebiotics? Do you have any parasite, gut infections? All of that we work on. And then the 7th element of the holistic method is hydration. Are you drinking filtered water, 100 ounces or so a day? It depends on your weight. So half your body weight, divide that by half, that's the amount of ounces you need. So if you're 200 pounds, you need to drink 100 ounces of water a day. But if you have a cup of coffee, add another 12 ounces of water. So if you have 2 cups of coffee, other caffeinated beverages, you have to add another 12 ounces of water. And then that's with alcohol too. Now, a lot of people drink too much alcohol during the week, and maybe once a week is great, or twice a week, but not every day. That's another issue of dehydration, liver congestion, and all sorts of problems. So my last one is my favorite: gratitude, play, happiness. Happiness is the 8th element. Are you happy? Are you enjoying life each day? Are you making every day happy and joyful and not have any regrets? Are you doing stuff every day that makes you enjoy the day to its fullest? The holistic method. So training the whole you from the inside out with these 8 elements is really essential part to improving your ability to burn fat, to improve your athletic performance, and to enhance the aging process, longevity. So if you want to learn more about my coaching program, go to debbiepotts.net and set up a consultation. If you want to learn more about fat adaptation, head back to the archives of my website. Plus, there's a bunch of free ebooks. But remember, Fit, Fat, Fast podcast, we started in 2011 and 2012 talking all about this stuff. And there's a lot of information on my blog page. So go to debbiepotts.net. You can go to the blog, go to the podcast, and you can go to Facebook, Low Carb Athlete, where I put the research that I'm looking at for my presentations, as I will be speaking on the Low Carb Cruise with Jimmy Moore in May. Hopefully you can join us next year. It's again in May the next year. And then KetoCon I'm doing in June, talking about how to train the low carb athlete for improved performance and longevity. So we'll tie in the holistic method with that and tie in really mitochondria health, how can you optimize mitochondria for performance longevity. So with that, I will leave you. And if you have any other questions or comments you want to have me answer on the Friday episode, let me know. How to train the low carb athlete to improve athletic performance and longevity. All right, head to debbiepotts.net. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please share with your other athletic friends and help spread the love. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Whole Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at wholeathletepodcast.com. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.